As you know, our background, because of the recent event with the Kensho Abbey seminar, sit cross-leg block with, on May the 14th at Crystal Palace. This was to celebrate our teacher, and this is the kanji, or calligraphy, of Ellis Sensei. This is his name. And this was specially done and presented to me by Nigel Jones from Aber Aikido in Wales, who was my special guest on the day. Now, I don't know whether to leave that here at the dojo, if it's going to be safe to leave it here. It would be nice to be in the dojo, okay? But the one thing that we're very proud of is our links, because there's only 4 people left in the whole of the UK that trained with Ellis Sensei in the 1950s, and 2 of those, Sensei Eastman and myself, are in this organisation, our small organisation. But what we want to do as we go forth is to leave behind this legacy of Ellis Sensei, what he was, because Aikido has changed so much as we move on. In fact, there's very little recognition to the Aikido of the 50s, and the only person that actually keeps that alive is Sensei Eastman. He's the only one. Much more than I do. Although I teach of a similar vein, mine is just that little bit more a mixture of Ellis Sensei and myself. But Sensei Eastman actually teaches the true Ellis Sensei style, which is very positive. Now, one of the things, you know, there are many things that have changed, and when I teach, I'm going to try and teach a bit more over the next few weeks and see what my health allows. But what I want to try and do is to show how things are changing and what's happening. And I'd like Mr. Brad first to just demonstrate the press-ups on the back of the wrists. Come to the centre, facing that one. Now, you've all seen these, but we're going to record this. And in the early days, in the 50s and early 60s, every single student in Aikido in Britain did these press-ups. Every single dojo followed it. Some people say they're not good for you. You always find that people who say that are the ones who can't do it. It's a good excuse to opt out. But they are very good for you. And I've never known anybody that can't do that. Usually, once people have done that, inside and out, you find they can now play the piano, and they couldn't before. There's a lot of good to come out of it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Of course, sometimes we sit on these. It's gone now. Sit on his bed. Okay, but people now, when they take people off balance, they're floating them around, running them around in big circles, and they call that taking your opponent off balance. Is that what you did in France? The big circular movement?
Something like that, yes.
You know, Ellis Sensei always said that this is jigatai, and you turn the feet out and then turn the knees out, and this puts tremendous strain on here, building up these muscles here, and a very solid posture for taking judo and for punching. So all our exercises in the old days were done from jigatai, everything. Pull in, 500 of these, and if you bend your elbows like this, you've got to smack the shinai on the elbows. So you needed to keep your hands straight, the arms straight. So all exercises, everything you did from standing was done from jigatai. Then when Sensei said move, you could hardly move, but it made you very powerful. And then as you change from jigatai here, and just turn on the ball of the foot slightly, like this, you're now in Aikido posture. Now, the style of your posture is an individual thing, really. You know, some people like to be here. I like to be about there. That's comfortable for me. But some people like here, this is more for kendo. Kendo is very short, though, it's very small. If you're wide like this restricts your movement. If you're too wide, it's very difficult to, if you're in the middle of a technique or an opponent or something, and to try and move from there can be, so it's just about there, it's just nice, okay? Now, when practicing, if this back foot is off the mat, you're off balance. You don't have to have your leg off like this, just the back heel, or there, you're off balance. So Ellis Sensei never spoke, hardly ever spoke on the mat. Always carried a shinai and a whack, so wherever he hit you with the shinai, you knew that's where the problem lay. So if you was doing something and he whacked you on the elbow, and you had to be quick, because you didn't want too many of those, you'd think, my elbow's out. All of a sudden, whack, you get another one. Okay, needs to be in. He doesn't hit you again, you've learned. And that way you learn. Somebody could tell you 50 times and you don't learn. You get hit with that shinai once, twice, you learn. Okay? But that was a good method. Of course, the tree huggers of today wouldn't like that. But, and there's too much PC. And what they've done, by taking all this out, what they've actually done, they've taken the spirit out of Aikido. And they've replaced that spirit with flower power. And people, Shiba Sensei had the right word for these people, and he always called them plastic samurai. I think that's a great term. These are people that want to play at martial arts. They're never going to be a martial artist. They can wear all the downgrades and hakamas and then wear them over their head or whatever they want to do. They haven't got the spirit to be a martial artist. So they are plastic samurai. But they look good on the mat, they talk on the mat, they float, they have a yuki that floats around them, throwing them with their big toe and all this kind of thing. And I started some time ago to collect, and I wish I'd continued to do so, stories from these kind of bizarre stories in Aikido. But one that came through to me a couple of days ago from the editor of Misogi magazine in Australia. He was telling me a student had just joined his dojo and he'd left another, he's a downgrade, but he's left this other dojo because the instructor told everybody on the mat that the next session, next week, they must all bring an apple each. So they thought they were bringing an apple from the teacher. But you stop doing that when you're about 5. So they get to the dojo and he tells everybody, Teddy Hayamnik here, he puts an apple on his head, and I have to take the apple off his head with my key, with my power on my key. So this guy, feeling rather stupid, being a sensible sort of guy, instead of putting his apple on the other one's head, and all you could hear in the dojo was the sound of this apple crunching, and the teacher come up and banned him from the dojo for a week, and then demanded that he writes an apology, and the guy left. But what the hell has that got to do with martial arts? And there are so many of these bizarre stories which is really corrupting what we're doing, okay? So, the other thing which is important is that our style of Aikido, when I say our style, the original style originating from Ellis Sensei is much tighter. When we're moving, rather than have somebody coming here, and look, he's following me nice. We move very, very tight to the body, See how tight I am? So tight, he can't escape. But if I'm here and he's coming round, run, please. I can't even do it. So, okay, so just see how close we are when we move. Rather than when we talk about negative and positive, the one thing I try to teach all the time, wherever I teach, and I used to travel a lot teaching, I used to try to explain negative and positive. Now we all know that negative is when your opponent's stronger and he pushes me. So I must go with him. But if he's not so strong, then that's positive, and I take positive. But the difference between negative and positive is about that much with me. So I call my negative positive. People say, what is that sense? I said, it's negative positive. And it doesn't make sense. But later on it will. So from here, he's stronger and he's pushing. But rather than taking him from here, negative. Oops, sorry. Yeah? Can you see the difference? So positive is here. Straight in. Negative is here. You see the difference? So all I'm doing, he's strong, I'm allowing him to come in, and that is enough. And now I just change it and I attack his body. Now this is where Aikido has changed. People go, they go here, here, that's the correct movement, but it's too wide. So what I do, I call it going through my opponent. So as I take one here, instead of stepping to the side of him, I attack his body with the side of my body here, from here. Yeah? But I call it walking through my opponent. I'm going through him. Doesn't matter. Even if it gives me a few lumps. Now the one thing I never worried about when I was younger was lumps. Because at the hut, you always had lumps. And if you didn't have lumps, you knew that person wasn't a member of the hut. Didn't have lumps, you couldn't come in. Okay? So, what I want you to do now is just this technique. One, positive. Negative. Negative. So one's positive, one's negative positive, one's very negative. Okay? Harold, is it? Welcome back. Quickly? They didn't teach you to line up very quick in France, did they? Huh? Right. I want you to pick up on something now that Mr. Brad does. When I take him, one of the things that Ellis Sensei always said is to take your opponent, rather than take big movement, even in your judo, try to take your opponent's head. You take their head, you take their body. Okay? So from here, when we come here, see where I'm going? Straight into the head. Bang! Bang! See where he is? What is he doing? Don't look at me. Here.
Trying to escape.
His head. One thing that Mr. Brad and Mark learned with my technique is get your head out of the way. Doesn't matter about anything else. Just because you're going to lose your teeth. Or a broken nose. Or, I mean, Mark's had a broken nose. And, you know, so I'm not bragging about that. I'm just saying if you don't get your head out of the way, you're going to get lumps. Yeah? So, to avoid lumps, bang, here. Understand? So, in the interest of safety, get your head out of the way. Try that. Been to Australia lately? Jason?
Myself,
Yeah. Where did you learn to walkabout? I don't want you going walkabout on my mat. When you do Aikido, the important thing is good posture, you know? You take a technique, when you take a technique, you take it, if you need to follow through, follow through. You've taken the technique, walk back. In Aikido. What's this? If I see you again, I'm going to start using Shihan, and I'm moving. And that goes for everybody. You've got to stop that. You look, when you visit another dojo, you look and you will see that so many people go walkabout. It looks horrendous. I hate it. So we're going to pick up on that now. Let's make sure, Brad Beeden, we stop people doing walkies. Okay? Always nice, you know, finish the technique off. Come back. Nice. Carry on.
So you can't be here. Come up your centre. Yeah. From here, bring in. Up your centre.
Push this one. Yeah. No, this one must be over here.
Stay posture.
Now go through. Step through here.
Yeah. Take your head.
But hit him in the face. I want you to try to hit it. Nobody will know this. Nobody will ever know where you're going.
This one
Just
here.
hit him in the face.
It's not.
Okay.
That's around there, like this.
Yeah.
Too far. Scoop him in. Elbow to the face. Look. Yes. That's it. Yes. Even though you do this one, forward, yeah? If you start to bring it back, to go forward, you bring it back into posture. So you take, still extend it. Okay.
Right. I'm very fortunate that this week I've received a DVD from Nigel Jones and it's across me. And it's got Ellis Sensei on it, who signed my certificates. It's got the Doshu, the present Doshu, who sent me that nice letter. saying there are very few of us left, which is true. There's Ellis Sensei, who I was assistant to at one summer school. There's Nakazona Sensei, who I was assistant to at the Royal Albert Hall in 1963. And that is one of the most special events of my career, to be at the Royal Albert Hall with him. And to see him, he's only on there for a few seconds, and he's always been my favourite. And when you see this little bit of him, you then know why he's just so powerful. And then there's Noro. Noro was totally different. Noro was very graceful. He was the first of the really flowing, wide-flowing, graceful movements. And it showed that the early days of Aikido in France was very similar to the early days in Britain in the 1950s. They go back to 1952, which is just 3 years before we started. But they had, their dojo was on the beach at Marseille with a canopy on the beach made of reeds. And then the mat was a frame compacted with sawdust. And the students, don't forget this was 6 years after the war, the students, one of them had a hakama. So whoever was teaching would get to borrow the hakama. They had to share it between the whole school. So, you know, what they went through to build Aikido from nothing, because France is now the largest Aikido-based country in the world, even more than Japan or America or anywhere. There's more Aikidos in France. But coming from that little unit, and that's on this DVD. So Noro Sensei brought with him a style of teaching which we still follow today. But I don't think anybody else in Great Britain, same as the press-ups, it's gone, they're set for here. Teaching the form system, which I think is a brilliant way to teach. I think it's absolutely excellent. Why anybody wants to change it, I don't know. But we're happy with it, so we don't want to change it. So we still teach the forms as taught and designed and developed by Noro Sensei. Okay? And first form was always right to right, left to left. This is first form. Okay? This is second form. Third form. Fourth form. Fifth form. Sixth form. Seventh form. I'm here.
I was going to move.
Eighth. Second. Okay? So, and there are more and more, but that's the basic ones. So first form, the first technique would be Nikkyo. Now, a lot of, you know, if you resist Nikkyo, of course, assuming that Nikkyo is put on, and if it's applied correctly, I've never known anybody that's ever resisted my Nikkyo. But if you do resist, it's going to break. But it's silly to resist, because if you resist, you're going to get hurt and you can't come back. The object of every exercise is to come back, to counter. So if I take here and down, and he goes with the technique now because he doesn't, you know, as you said, he goes with it. Before I can apply any more technique, he counters and takes. So I counted his counter. Understand? And that's how we used to work at the hub a great deal. The mind is just, one is trying to counter the other, and so on. And this is how the techniques became so powerful and so effective. Okay? Now, what I want you to do is to, I'm going to leave Mr. Brad to teach now, and you can just teach whatever. But as I teach each week, I want to start studying the forms. What are the forms? How they work? And and we're going to get them down on DVD. Okay? Thank you. Thank you. Any questions? Good. Too late.
Thursday nights.
Oh yeah.
Thursdays, Tuesdays.
We've got a chance of changing our Friday night to Thursday night.